She, as far as I know, is the first venture-backed individual creator. As in, a venture capitalist said, I want to buy a percentage of whatever you do in the future, and I'll give you $1 million now cash to, own 10% of.
Good morning, marketers. We are back again with Yaro and Tom, and today we're going to be talking about some of the things that Yaro learned at VidCon 2022. So Yaro was just over there. For those who don't know, VidCon is, I think it's probably the most popular conference for YouTubers and creators. A lot of the big name YouTubers go to this conference. They speak there, attend there, a lot of lessons there. So I was really curious to hear what trends Yaro might have heard about. He made a list here. So he is going to take us through some of these stories.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So VidCon was awesome, for starters. I've never been before. It's been going for like 12 years. A lot of kids there, to be honest. I felt like an old man on some level. It's kind of like a rock concert where you're going to see your favorite creators, and they're lining up for meet and greets and get a photo and sit in the audience. So there's thousands of the kids, and then I'm up with the industry people, like the old people in the in the talks. But to be fair, there weren't as many people there. Definitely attendance was down overall, and very much so in the older leadership sort of industry track, as it's called.
Yeah, I heard that they lost the last 2 years. They didn't do a conference for 2 years, right? So
they didn't.
2 years, no conference, and then it looked like low attendance on this one. So, yikes.
Yeah. So they're basically bringing it back up and seeing how things are going. So this is not strictly from VidCon, but it does tie in a lot. So I wanted to share it with you guys. So Bilibili is the YouTube for creators in China, one of the bigger video platforms. There's so much going on in China. I'm not totally up to date with everything there. But what I thought what was really interesting was one of the YouTubers, an English one, or she's Russian/American now. Her name is Marina Mogilko. I followed her as the Silicon Valley girl for a long time now, watching her YouTube videos. Just really great startup stories and talking about her own journey to start various businesses and things like that. She came over from Russia and had some success teaching English and running a whole business around bringing, I think, people.
Hey guys, my name is Marina.
Whoops.
I'm 32 years old, and
Sorry.
I can hear her right now. That's Marina, right? So I was watching one of her videos just recently, where one of her more recent ones called "How I Built 10 Streams of Income by the Age 32," and it's your typical story, like it's AdSense ads on YouTube, and she's got courses she sells in her business. But right at the end, I think it was, she mentioned it was something I never heard of. She has her videos translated and put on Bilibili. She's the same story as YouTube, right? You publish videos on this platform called Bilibili, and you can go check it out at bilibili.com. It says something in Chinese that I don't know what it's saying, but last time I did this search, her videos are showing up. Hey, maybe she's had them deleted. I don't know. But she was basically getting her team to take her English videos, uploading to Bilibili, and putting, I think it's Mandarin subtitles, captions on the videos, and then earning revenue share. And obviously it's a great strategy for any creator to take your content, other languages, other platforms. Not every country is YouTube first. There's other countries that, for example, like China, has their own platforms. What I think kind of, is an important thing to think about as a creator is English is just one language, and not even the most spoken language on the planet. So I was really blown away. I mean, the great thing about it is just repurposing, right? So it's her same content from years ago.
Interesting.
That she's now distributing on another platform.
And now it's all in Chinese? Let's watch this.
Yep.
Wait, it's in English? Oh, I think I could probably click something here
subtitles.
that's going to give it Chinese. I see.
This was something that was certainly being talked about as a theme in VidCon, is this idea of two things. Creators are burning out, and they're really only succeeding on one platform individually. They can manage that themselves. And by using things like one of the big sponsors of VidCon, Jelly Smack, which you guys probably have heard of before, it's a business that goes to top creators and says, we will partner with you. We'll take your long form video content and we'll create a profile, your profile, your platform on Facebook or on TikTok, wherever you are not. And they do it 100% for free. I think they take revenue share. It's funny. It's the one thing they never talked about on stage at VidCon, but they take, I'm assuming, some revenue share from the platform traffic that they build on Facebook or whatever. But for example, on stage at a couple of the events, the creators were saying how they put all their effort into YouTube, and then Jelly Smack just takes their video and then drops it on Facebook and builds their profile there. And some of them have 1 million followers on Facebook or 1 million followers on another platform that they were not even touching before. And thanks to Jelly Smack, they're reaching other platforms. So I think the burnout aspect combined with the repurposing strategy, which Matt, I know you've always been a big fan.
I'm big
of
on repurposing. I'm just curious, is their whole thing about getting into other languages, or it's just strictly other platforms?
Jelly Smack, no, Jelly Smack is not languages. I mean, I don't know enough about them to know if they're like, doing Spanish, for example. What they talked about at VidCon was, when they were promoting this, if you're succeeding on one platform, why not be on another one? But we'll do it all for you. And when I say that, they have their own editorial team. They have an AI apparently that is learning from not just one creator, but what's working for their entire client base. So they're in some ways better than any one individual creator because they're getting data on what's working for all their clients. And when I say clients, PewDiePie and Mr. Beast are both clients of theirs. So this is not like you and I and Tom, none of us are getting on there. You have to already have like millions of people on your one platform, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or something. But it's leverage, right? So I think, and Marina doing this in China, I've not heard of that being done much. And we just mentioned on the previous episode, what was his name? The children's entertainment puppy, what was it?
Blippy.
Blippi and Billy, and Blippi doing the same thing in Spanish. So there's certainly opportunities. I thought about this for my own business years ago. I was like, I'm writing all these blog posts. Why don't I get them translated into other languages and I just publish them as the Chinese version, the Japanese version, the Spanish version, the French version?
Yeah, this is really interesting. I actually did not know about Jelly Smack before you told me, because you did mention earlier that we probably heard of it. Did you hear about it before, Tom?
Not Jelly Smack. Do you guys know Sean McCabe? SeanWest.com?
No.
He just started something like this like a year or two ago, though. But he was just like an agency kind of doing it, and that the concept was the same. We'll take your long form content and make it beautiful and repurpose it and publish it in a bunch of different places. So conceptually, I like the idea. I just haven't heard of this Jelly Smack thing. It sounds pretty cool.
I think I was looking into Jelly Smack's valuation. It's not 100% clear, but there looks like they're close to 100 million based on raising funds. So I feel like, because there's a lot of agencies that will do it for you, but not many that have taken this model, which I think is very smart, going to existing established creators saying, we'll do it, we'll cost you nothing, you've got great content, let's repurpose it for you.
Interesting. Because we're doing all of our repurposing ourselves right now, right? So I'm just curious, like...
Yeah, well, you get big enough, it'll be done by Jelly Smack.
Yeah, I just wonder, because it's like, I'm going to say not that much work once you set it up, like to hire a team that does it. It's kind of interesting, but maybe they have some unique advantage. I'm just curious, like, what else they're doing besides kind of, repurposing the actual content and publishing it, that sort of thing. Because that process is not that hard for, YouTubers got money. They could hire someone, hire an agency.
Yeah, I mean, there's that argument, but I think the hands-offness of this, the editing is especially good, apparently. Like, they have... very high quality editors because they're paying them a lot of money to do this for the best of the best in creators. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good business model. And I want to mention this just because I know this about Marina as well. I got to find an article we can share about this. She, as far as I know, is the first venture-backed individual creator, as in a venture capitalist said, I want to buy a percentage of whatever you do in the future, and I'll give you $1 million now cash to own 10% of Marina's stuff. I see if I can find that article about her. I don't know if this has become like she's a one-off, because I don't hear about this being done by anyone else, and obviously now we're in a bit of a downturn. I don't know if
I remember the guy from
venture capital.
He does like men's stuff, like men reading
Aaron
stuff.
Marino.
But he was on Dragon's Den. Is that his name? Yeah, he was on Dragon's Den, and then I think it was like Kevin O'Leary. He was pitching some product he was
He's
promoting.
like, I
and
want a
Kevin's
part
like,
of
"Hey,
you.
I want to have. Yeah, exactly. And then they said no to it, right? But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it also reminds me of like Idiocracy a little bit, where they have like their names are like the brand names. It's like, oh, this is KFC, or this is like eventually that corporate sponsorship will get to the level where people will change their names to the brand sponsor. I'm not saying it's at that level, but I think it's fascinating, like where this money's going just to get in front of the right audiences, because they can't do it through mainstream channels anymore. So if they can own or piggyback off of these individual content creators, it seems like an obvious trajectory.
Yeah, so just to read out the title here, Marina Magilko, YouTube creator who got 1.7 million in funding. So she received 1.7 million in funding from Slow Ventures. In exchange, the VC firm will receive 5% of all her earnings for the next 30 years.
Wow.
Would you guys give
That's
up
interesting.
the next 30 years of your 5% of your
I wonder
earnings?
how many subscribers she had or what her audience size was when she made that deal.
Well, according to this, her Lingua Marina, which is her language YouTube channel, 5 million subscribers and 220 million plus views. And then her Silicon Valley Girl channel, and she has another one as well, a Russian vlogging channel. So looks like around 6 or 7, maybe 6 million total subscribers. Plus, you know, she's got a company, like an actual business that came over, from, you know, when she got into the States. So
They get 5% of everything that she makes.
So if she launches like a, you know, her own vodka brand and it becomes $1 billion company,
right.
they get 5% of it. Yeah.
This
So
is,
it's
very,
an interesting
it's
experiment.
very feudal in setup. It's like the feudal lords used to do this too with the peasants, where they get a percentage of everything that they make. So I find this fascinating that we're finally coming full circle. It only took us about 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's
Did you
kind of
say
like
feudal lords?
Yes.
What are we talking about here, Tom?
or artists having a Patreon. You know, a Patreon kind of came up with the same thing. So
Well, it's fundamentally like, it's like you're almost selling a portion of yourself. Like there's some level of indentured servitude that is happening in this. And listen, it's an agreed upon, people are shaking hands, but if it's like 5% of everything, 5% of you and everything you make, that's an interesting, arrangement is all I guess I'll say about that. I would do it, but it would have to be for the right brand. It'd have to be for like Arby's or something.
there's another podcast where the the company itself that did the venture backing of Marina talks about, you know, why they did it, and they actually mention this indentured servitude issue, whether it is that. What's your take on it? So yeah, this controversy here. I don't know. I don't like. I'm surprised she did it, to be absolutely honest. But then, who knows what she had planned for $1.7 million in venture too? Like, what was that going to?
Yeah, who knows where she was at, like in her business, finances, stuff like that, right? Like, yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, if you're worth less than, you know, $1 million and you could offer $2 million right now, you know what I mean?
It's very interesting. I wonder if that's going to be a new realm of law that's going to have to come up, because it actually reminds me of like landlord-tenant law and stuff like that. That's obviously evolved over the years. And like one of the things that like I think evolved in that space was the idea of like how long contracts can be for, like typically, like what's reasonable. Because again, you're going to be a different person in a few years. And like and this isn't signing your life away. It's not that grandiose. It's 5%. Like I get that. But like there's definitely some level to that where it's like in 30 years, like, is she going to be in a old folks home? Like, what is life going to be like at that point in time? It's a very strange thing because of the timetable. It's very strange.
Yeah, they talked about that, and it's totally open. As in, if she retires tomorrow, she keeps the money, and you're done. You know, but it's an experiment. I think that's the way both sides were playing it.
Yeah, they also, just real quick, they also talk about like, you know, if you want to go to college, somebody could like pay your college tuition in exchange for a percentage of everything you make over the next 10 years.
I remember that. There was a company that was doing that, or a platform, right?
So next story here is Roblox creators are making millions of dollars. I was actually really surprised by this one, Yaro, when you show this, because my son is really big into gaming. He has learned how to mod Minecraft already, and the fact that he just loves gaming so much, I could totally see him getting into something like this. He plays Roblox as well. When I first saw Roblox, I was like, this is just weird what it was, because like there's just so many different types of things you could do in it, and it's all made by creators, basically. So why don't you explain the story here about Megan Plays?
Yeah, so I was sitting in this big audience listening to this woman named Megan Plays, who's got pink hair, total kind of cartoon-like character. And she's talking about, how she, plays the game Roblox and records herself or streams live on YouTube and makes videos. So she's a traditional gaming YouTuber to begin with, which I've been familiar with. I mean, I remember my little brother would watch video gamers game Roblox and other games as well. Different from me. I remember growing up playing Nintendo and playing Sega. I don't know if I would have watched kids on YouTube. Probably would. It's just the thing to do. But then she started talking about how she wanted to get a game made herself. So this is where, like you, Matt, I'm not really into Roblox, but the layers in this game where you can create your own world, your own game for other gamers to play, and this can be a source of income for you as well. We should mention that there's this thing called Robux. It's their own digital currency. It's funny we're talking about crypto so much, but Robux is its own economy already. It has real value. So it's a digital currency that works today. So she went to get games, or wanted to hire basically a dev shop, an agency, to get a game made. She used the word like getting absolutely fleeced by this company, spent a lot of money, didn't get much back, and then decided I'm going to do it myself. So she, as a creator, then went and built an entire basically engineering dev shop for Roblox game manufacturer. Apparently about 70 engineers inside a building, just making Roblox games. And she then gets partnerships with whatever big brands who want to, as part of a campaign, have a Roblox playable environment, which can be just like a branding play, a product launch play.
Check this. Check this.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Developers can opt into the STARS program on a yearly basis, and Roblox gets exclusive licensing rights for their properties for the next 5 years. If any of the developers' offerings are turned into toys, they receive a 50% share of the royalties, and Roblox keeps the rest. So they want to start licensing the IP that is created by these creators, and these creators are now getting a cut of that. That is huge. Imagine you're creating your own game. They're basically created a platform to create games within, which has all these users. And then if it gets popular, and then you're also getting royalties from like toys and
merch,
like whatever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's the metaverse. Already exists.
Yeah,
I was reading a similar quote. Wired says that building experiences on Roblox teaches the fundamentals of coding, digital civility, and entrepreneurship, and has helped many begin their careers in STEM. Roblox gave developers $129.7 million in the second quarter of 2021 to over 600 developers. And now, was it over 600 developers earn over $85,000 a year from their Roblox creation? So I love this because this is a part of being a creator, and it's a gaming creator where there's such a clear path to actually making money that's not about ads. It's something you can control, you own, and like you just said, Matt, you get the merch aspect of it.
And it's also like children get into this. Like my son, 6 years old, is into doing this sort of thing. Like I enrolled him in a course about how to like mod Minecraft and do things in Minecraft, right? And you see a lot of YouTubers will mod Minecraft and make videos within that mod and, doing that sort of thing. You see Mr. Beast doing it on his Mr. Beast gaming channel. So the same thing here is like kids.
Do you guys feel lost when you watch these things?
Which was like the Minecraft stuff?
Yeah, like because I watch this and I'm like, I don't really know what's going on. Like I feel really like I'm old.
Yeah, I feel like that every day. I'm like, okay, so that's it. That must have been what my parents or the grandparents or whatever saw when we were kids, maybe playing these video games to begin with. I find it fascinating. The ecosystem of this is very fascinating. because again, like the nature of having the platform to, because I remember actually growing up, I was definitely into video games and into modding before there was any compensation for that kind of stuff. But for me, it was like, Half-Life and stuff like that. But now it's like for kids to have a platform to be able to tap into an existing ecosystem and platform to develop and then potentially make some money from it and also develop the skill. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. Like I'm really cautiously optimistic about the future. I tend to think everything's going to go downhill, but I have to give props where credit is due, and it seems like that's a pretty fascinating opportunity for a lot of kids to get into.
And if you want to experience the metaverse, go to Roblox.
Well, on that point, Yaro, I'm curious. Like on the metaverse, people talk about the metaverse, and I'm curious on that piece. Like it does seem to me like I see how it already exists in some pieces. Like if you went back far enough, you remember, what was it, Second Life? I never played it or whatever, but I was aware of it, and it seemed like some people were like really into it. There were these communities that built up in these digital spaces, these video games or whatever, but they were like self-contained ecosystems. So I'm curious, is the metaverse just like a name we give for that same thing? Like I definitely see how these self-contained ecosystems can develop, but will they, like, is the metaverse then saying it's going to be cross-platform in some way? Like how do all these things come together? Or is it just like this idea of more digital ecosystems?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I think right now, Roblox is possibly the single best example of a one platform metaverse, right? Like it's got its own rules, its own structure, landscape, its own money, a way to build companies within the platform itself, to be just a player, to represent yourself with an avatar, all that sort of thing. But I think what you're hinting at and what we all kind of think of as metaverse is more than that. It's like we're going to go to the Twitter metaverse and people will just be sharing news and we'll be having some interaction there through, I don't know if it'll be like a 3D virtual glasses kind of experience, augmented reality or virtual reality, whatever it is. And then I think when it really starts to get crazy is kind of like now, we upload something to YouTube and then the clip is shared on TikTok, and then the quote is taken and put on Twitter, and then that Twitter quote appears on NBC News. And those are all different places and platforms where one piece of content is kind of being distributed. Take that idea and put it in the metaverse and imagine someone, this is what blew my mind as well about the whole Roblox thing. They're one of the biggest stage, the most kids were coming to see this group of Roblox gamers, right? And they just stream themselves playing the game. And there is fan fiction written about these kids, the adventures they go on, the dramas between them all. There's it's almost like a movie narrative. It's like Marvel, where they're real kids playing a video game, and all these other kids are interacting in some shape or form. Some of it's even like romance fan fiction. So they're talking about real kids having romance. Anyway, it's all over the place. But you take that and think about it, extrapolating into different platforms. Kid does something in Roblox, gets onto mainstream news, it goes onto another platform, and then that's where it's kind of disseminating. But there won't be one metaverse, so to speak. It's going to be your way to interact and how old you are and what's your preferred tool of choice, but it will all be meshed together. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I was just looking at Wikipedia, and it says that this was developed and released in 2004, 2006, Roblox. I'm like, I just have never heard of this really until now that you're saying it. But again, it's just one of those fascinating things where these massive niches or massive industries that you're not even aware of. I think that's fascinating too. Like that there's this whole world built around this video game architecture or platform. It's fascinating.
Roblox is now a public company. It looks like they launched at around $70 a share. They peaked at $140 a share, $140, $160. And today they're at $40 a share. So, it's interesting that this could be actually a good investment, because I think you're right. If this is kind of like the best example of a metaverse, and once we get that, the VR technology and all that kind of stuff, and this whole industry happening within it, I could see this really blowing up over the next few years. I mean, if this is correct that they just launched in March of 2021, then they're still pretty early in the game here. So
it is one place to experience the metaverse. If if it's all kind of fuzzy to you, go in there, play, buy something, But like you said, this has been around for ages.
Yeah.
There's been MMOs, right, for a long time, and they've had in-game currencies that you could buy things, and you can buy property inside these things. So, yeah, it's interesting. But we're gonna move on. The NBC News channel, Stay Tuned, celebrates 5 years on Snapchat. So the under 20 crowd are getting their news from creators, not from mainstream news sources. NBC is having great success with the Stay Tuned show on Snapchat, which they broadcast on all social channels, streams, and short and long form news. Now, I'll be honest, kind of like what you were just saying before, Tom, of not being aware of Roblox. I was not aware of Stay Tuned, and I don't use Snapchat at all. Like, I'm not on Snapchat. But I went and checked out Stay Tuned on some other platforms just to see what they do. And it is what you'd expect, news in under a minute, quick cuts, kind of like TikTok. They're huge. They've got 10.5 million subscribers on Snapchat. Receives nearly 1 million unique viewers per episode. And most importantly, I think it's millennials. This is how they're consuming their news. This is like, your grandparents are going and watching Fox or NBC on television, on cable, but the younger crowd are getting these sort of little bites of news from these kind of platforms, which actually connects to a greater point that came out of VidCon. If there was one overarching concept, it was short form video is hot, whether it's reels or shorts or TikTok or taking all those things and repurposing them, spreading around. The platforms are pushing that format. Reels with Meta, they want people to do reels, so they're giving you a lot of free traffic. So I think, it's where we're going to consume our news, but it's where we're consuming everything. I personally don't like it. I prefer long form content. I'd rather watch a YouTube video than a short or a TikTok, but this is where the traffic is.
I was just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, because I'm like you. I'm definitely a long form content kind of person, but I was like, what's interesting about this, at least what I see from it, short form content, what's the point? To me, from a platform level, the point is, if it's short form, you flip between new piece of content, you can insert more ads. So they must be getting more ad space per minute watch, like whatever that metric is with these short forms. I just find that interesting because it's TikTok, Instagram does it with Reels, YouTube does it with, or Reel. I don't know. They all have their own thing now, right? All these platforms have their little short blip type things. And I think it's because they can insert more ads. That's my theory.
What's interesting about shorts on YouTube is that right now the only way to get paid for it is through the Shorts Fund, right? Which they are distributing to creators in some way that people don't really understand. But I don't think there is ads on shorts on YouTube right now. But that's interesting that that's what you think, because a lot of people have been talking about how is YouTube going to monetize shorts and why are they pushing it so much. And even the way Instagram, I don't know if you guys' Instagram feed changed, but now when I scroll, it's like I'm scrolling TikTok, right? It's annoying. I keep closing it because I'm like, I don't want to scroll like that. And it keeps showing me people or things that I don't even follow anymore. That is becoming less relevant to me, right? So yeah, but
that's funny because I was just using my TikTok and I was seeing they were showing images like an Instagram carousel. I had to swipe to the right. I was like, oh my gosh, TikTok's becoming Instagram. Instagram is becoming TikTok.
yeah, it's interesting. I guess because with the the millennials or whatever, they really like that. But for us, I don't like it. I'm not a TikTok person. I don't scroll TikTok and stuff. I don't like it too much. I do like some reels that get posted and little tips and stuff, but what do you?
I think they all have their place. I mean, I find out about new things through short form video and then, investigate deeper with long form, a podcast, a YouTube video. What I think is interesting, I remember, you guys probably remember this, if you go back to sort of the start of content on the web, people were saying there's so much information. This is probably when it was just articles, right? And it's like, attention spans are so short, no one can read your blog post because there's a million other blog posts to read. And then suddenly YouTube comes out and then social media comes out. It's like, oh my gosh, so, attention spans are even shorter now. Like, there's so much content. And then it's getting shorter and shorter and more. And yet, I think overall, we're still managing to always have a way to reach people in whatever format we need to, no matter what our topic is. And I think that, to me, is the beauty of the internet, really. It's these platforms change, which, TikTok is now ascending and there's more of everything, but there's still a predefined way. Like you can go and start creating reels today and probably organically reach an audience no matter what your topic is. You couldn't do that before the internet. So I don't like it, but I also think it is.
Do you think it's causing more like ADHD in children because it's always just kind of like one thing to the next to the next?
Well, cause and effect, or just correlation, or is it the other way around? And again, you guys are saying millennials, but I don't think this is a push towards millennials. I think this is Zoomers.
Yeah.
I think it's that younger generation even, you know, and I don't know. I don't know if it's causing it. I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but I do feel like it maybe trends towards that younger generation that are, at least they're growing up and they're adopting it right from the start. Quick short form content. I don't know.
The short form content started with more funny stuff, like entertainment. Now looking at, something like the show Stay Tuned, getting more into like short form news content, which I think is interesting. I like to get my news like that, like really quick, what's going on, right? I like to watch a lot of shows that are just like kind of give me the gist of what's going on. I'm not going to sit there and study and read and watch like an hour-long video about one topic that's news related, right?
But you would a documentary though, right?
Yeah, I would like to watch a documentary. Yeah, that's true.
Like you'd watch, if there was a subject you care more about, you'd dive in.
Right, but not with like daily news, right? Like if there's some daily news happening, I'm not gonna watch like a 20-minute video on that one story, probably, unless I'm really into it.
Yeah.
Like I do notice, some YouTubers do that. Hey, you have in the notes here that, and this came from your notes from VidCon, around short form news content being a focus.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's one of the threads that connects this idea of short form content. I mean, you guys see this. We're maybe even attempting to be an example of it right now, where you're going to possibly, like, who knows, you might be watching me talk right now on a clip from this YouTube video, which is long form, but you've taken it and put it into a short form, repurposing it. And the point is, a lot of, whether it's millennials, Zoomers, I think it's us too. Maybe you guys are millennials. I don't know, Matt. I thought you might be a millennial, but I'm Gen X. I'm in the middle there. And whatever the case may be, the traditional news format is not watched by younger people. Let's just call them younger people, and they're getting their news from a whole range of internet-based media, whether it's short form, long form, middle form, swiping up or down or left and right. It's not about an anchor giving you an update with, here's the bad stuff that happened. We'll end with a cute story about a dog or a cat, and that's the format. Right now, it's Matt, who knows a lot about business and internet marketing and creator economy, who then can give his angle. He gets the news, but he also gives his opinion and angle about the story. And that's what's great, because it's tailored then to what you are more interested in hearing. But what's important there, it's also anchoring the creator who's giving the news as being a filter, is having some kind of power there to control perception of the news. Just like we were talking about last episode, what Jordan Peterson says already is going to be filtered by what you think of Jordan Peterson. So if he tells you some news, it becomes political, left-leaning, right-leaning. But what I love about it, it's all long tail. We're all about the long tail, finding out the very specific, tailored to what you are interested in, and it's more nuanced, it's more niche. In that case, it should be more useful to you as well. And I get that right now. I'm on TikTok, and I'm getting individuals telling me very specific things about cryptocurrencies, whatever it is, business opportunities, traffic marketing, among other things I get on TikTok, because I don't know, TikTok's algorithm thinks I like animals and things I shouldn't mention on this show. So, stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely been a theme.
Yeah.
Short form and news.
Well, it's also, I think, and tell me if this is what you learned from this as well, the short form can support the long form, because I think the short form, it's like, here's a 10-minute or 10-second clip or 5-second clip, and it's something interesting, and it's got a hook, but it didn't complete it. It's still in a loop in my mind, so I clicked to go watch the full interview. I think there seems to be a lot of opportunity for long form creators to tap into the short form in that way, from kind of a marketing standpoint, if that makes sense. It doesn't have to be, here's my 15 seconds of me, what is it, mukbanging? or you know, but we can we
That sounds very suspect, Tom. No, I see your point, and I heard Colin and Samir say something similar. And I think this is new. Everyone's experimenting, but it's this idea that the algorithm's pushing short, but then it's meant to also push subscribers to long form. So find you on short, maybe go and check out your channel, watch something longer, hit the subscribe button. So it's a funnel. We know all about the funnels, right? That's the online video funnel right now.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like I've discovered a lot of people through short form videos. So I think it's a good discoverability tool.
To give you context, I was in a small room that was 5 podcasters on stage talking about, how they grew their show and so forth, and where is podcasting going. And one of the group was an actual agency. Like, they've been around for a long time. They host multiple shows. And their overall concept was that the idea of a podcast and that label is not like, it's becoming less and less relevant to the way content is distributed, even interview-based content, or maybe like what we're doing now. It's really just broadcasting. Podcasting is associated to the good old iPod, which I don't think even exists anymore. If I'm correct, it was discontinued by Apple. So it usually refers to listening to audio, but really, if podcasting is moving to YouTube, if it's being shared on all the social platforms, whether short form or long form, even it's starting as a stream. Like, a lot of shows now are first streamed, then obviously saved as long form, then chopped up and redistributed in short form. It's just broadcasting media. So that was the kind of idea that they were sharing. And I think, if nothing else, YouTube as a discovery mechanism for podcasts, that to me was a real breakthrough. It should be obvious. I'm surprised it's taken this long, because finding podcast content, there's no good search engine for it, right? You can't just easily go and find all the best podcasts on one topic. YouTube has a great algorithm. It's a great search engine. So if all podcasts go there, then it should be a great place.
So I know that YouTube is going big, or trying to go big into podcasting. I 100% agree with you on discoverability. When we put this show on, through all the podcast networks, and I think we get maybe 20 downloads, something like that, an episode. It's not a lot. We put it on YouTube, and some of our clips got 10,000, hundreds, whatever, right? So, and I've also tried to discover podcasts, and I use Spotify to find podcasts, and it is difficult to find. It's difficult to search through. Like, I can't search a podcast itself for different topics, right? Like, I was listening to Andrew Warner's Mixergy podcast, and I wanted to try to find an episode about a particular topic to see if he interviewed anybody around this topic. And I can't search his catalog inside of Spotify. So the discoverability is not there. It's interesting to see how so many podcast networks are investing so much money to bring in new talent or exclusive rights or whatever. But the podcast app itself hasn't really been innovated. There's still no podcast app where you can comment on things like you can do on YouTube, which I think comments are a really big part of YouTube, right? It kind of creates that social network community feel on there, right? And also, I just want to mention this just before we hop on the next episode, is that there was a whole bunch of news back in March of 2022 that Google had a grant for podcasters. We covered this in a previous story. We should link it up in the cards. But I have a theory that this whole thing was a lie just to make people think about podcasting on YouTube. They said they're going to give away between $50,000 to $300,000. And we did a whole episode thing, not a whole episode, but a whole story on this, how I think the whole thing is BS. And there's no podcast grant, because now it's still been several months since this news was rumored, and it was all over the place. Every media company was covering the story. Yeah, there's still no grant, but I do think that YouTube does see themselves as a place for podcasts, and I think it is a good place to have a podcast.
Do you guys know if YouTube in the algorithm uses the audio track as part of the search criteria?
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that for sure, but they do all the audio transcriptions now, right? So it makes sense that they are able to.
I think they do, because when you do a search on Google and then it shows you a video and then it'll go right to the spot where they talk about that thing. and they're now like creating chapters automatically. So I think they do, and probably it helps if you actually put in your transcription file. That's probably going to help as well.
Because I was trying to imagine a world where every single podcast ever recorded existed in YouTube, and then when you're trying to rank content, you know, because everyone is on YouTube knows it's title and thumbnail first, right? That's kind of like the main criteria, and then engagement, number of views will then help it sustain high ranking and rank higher. But with podcasts, you know, it's so much about the words being said, and I just wonder how much, you know, Tom said something about something, and then if I search, Tom's mentioning of that will then rank highly for that search. But you know, it's complicated. You know, all the
I do
different
think that
variables
what we
going on
say
there.
does have a ranking factor. I definitely think so.
So let's just all say like Coca-Cola over and over again for a while, and maybe we can get some sponsorship or something. Is that?
I know if we say podcasts on YouTube and stuff like that, and there's videos about podcasting on YouTube, then we'll probably rank higher if somebody searches podcasting on YouTube. You know, that probably just ranked as number one. Theory only. Yeah,
Let's test it out.
See what happens in this video.
All right, the last one for the episode. Honestly, this is more me getting a sense rather than news. This is not news specifically, but VidCon 3-day event, heard a lot of creators actually talking about their origin story, you know, how I decide what content to create, how I got my podcast or my YouTube channel or my whatever in social growing, how do I build my audience. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm always, my ears perk up whenever I hear that marketing question. How did you get your first, you know, 1,000 views or 10,000 subscribers or whatever it is? And every single creator answered this question by just saying, I just created content. You know, I was just being creative and my audience grew. And, you know, they said that sometimes very vaguely, sometimes a bit more specifically. But reading between the lines, I don't think there's a lot of strategic marketers in the sense of today's modern creator. I'm not saying that's a bad thing either. Like, they're just being creative and producing content. But I don't know, you guys like me, we came from such a marketing background. I can't switch that part of my brain off. You can see it with the advanced ones because they start studying thumbnail design and titles and do some keyword research. But most people are like, oh no, I just like baking and I just started making muffins and I just recorded videos about it. And there's no link between that and how they suddenly have 1.5 million subscribers. You know, there's no strategy or techniques. It's just producing
But
videos.
I think a lot of times it actually comes down to them having the right connections, right? Because I know somebody who has a podcast show, they did for like many years, I think like 5 or 6 years, and had like 10,000 subscribers doing a cooking show, right? And then there's others that blew up, right? And I think a lot of it is getting into these communities, like going to something like a VidCon, meeting other YouTubers, and, you know, collaborating, who knows what, you know, that sort of thing. I feel like whenever they're making their content, they're more focused on just making a great video. But you're right, they don't do the keyword research. Like when I was kind of putting together titles for the show, right? I'm like looking up like, what is the phrase that we're gonna use to like actually rank on this, and like where's the traffic at, right? But what really ends up building up your real YouTube channel is people feeling like they know you, right? So slowly, bit by bit, you build this audience of people who feel like they know you. But when you're creating content just to rank on Google, you're getting these like one-time views all the time, which might work, but it doesn't really build up your subscriber base to get that repeat, you know, viewer and that kind of community always consuming your content. Because I think that's what really makes you blow up on YouTube. That's what's going to get you a lot of subscribers and like millions of views. But just kind of trying to get that, you know, where can I rank? That sort of feel, you're going to get thousands of views. But if you want to build a community, you know, it's really about them kind of getting to know you. So it's something we need to do more of on this show.
Or even things like topic selection. You know, these are people, when they ask the question, how did you start? You know, did you research competition? Did you see if there's any money being spent in this market? Who are the competitors and how they're making money?
Yeah.
None of that. Yeah. You know, there's none of that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of them just want to create content. They don't even know. You're right.
Yeah.
They're just like, I want to be a YouTuber.
I'd say almost all of them. Like really, almost all creators on YouTube are like that. I'd say almost.
But that would be that's probably the typical trend though, right? For the beginner, the person just getting started is like that. And then as they get better, they're like, oh, I should pay attention to these covers of these YouTube videos or the titles, or I should put these keywords, or maybe I should follow some trending topics, or I see what's actually working. I'm going to do more of these kind of videos. So that makes sense to me. Maybe at the start that they wouldn't recognize it. I wonder how far along they were though at this point when they were telling you this, or when you heard these stories again and again. Had they not gone back and done like the backward analysis to figure out what was kind of any kind of tipping point or anything like that?
What do you guys think of your own early days and your first start at creating content? Did you like, how did you approach it? Did you remember just like, oh, I'm just going to write some blog posts?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I was very, that's why I resonated with that. I'm like, that's how I started. I was like, I really liked Stephen Pressfield and Seth Godin. And I was like, it would be cool if there was a book like War of Art, but in blog post format, just more consistent content. So I was like, I'll just start writing that way. And that was my inspiration. I just went from there. And then it obviously evolved. And then I saw, oh, actually, this got more traction than this, or people were more interested in this, or here's an opportunity. And then became more strategic as I went. But in the beginning, it was just being kind of more open and creative, which is very freeing and fun. But yeah, I didn't have a systematic way of thinking when I just got started. How about you, Matt?
My first form of content was events, right? And when I was doing the events, I was creating the events that I wanted to go to. And I learned that I was doing events that I thought my audience wanted, but then when I would go, I would just be bored at the event. I didn't want to really, I didn't care. I was sitting in the back being bored. But once I started creating events that I wanted to go to, that's when it started to really pick up steam, right? Then I started kind of seeing, you know, at every event, I kind of figure out who's there and what topics they're into and, you know, that sort of thing. And then I started finding speakers specifically for those kind of topics and that sort of thing. So I think it is important because this is like creators are meant to be creative, right? It's a form of expression, right? And I think about why people want to become creators because they want to express themselves, right? So if you get into YouTube as, you know, just looking to, you know, make money or whatever, like it's probably not going to work, right? But if you're doing it because you love it and you enjoy it, it comes through in your content, right? And it comes through even like as a speaker, you know, I think we've all done kind of talks, right? When you see a speaker who's not really into it, they're just there for the money, you could feel it. Right. But when someone's really passionate about their topic, they really love blogging, right? They really love product launches, whatever, right? You feel that energy and you gravitate towards that person. You're like, I want to know, I want that energy too. I want to keep following that person, get their content and kind of get more of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what kind of makes these creators really blow up because they really love what they're doing. And it's that creative process, right?
Let me ask you this then, guys. So I think back to my early days of blogging, and like you said, Tom, I was sort of completely green, want to express myself and tell some stories from stuff I'd done. And I just wrote, and it wasn't great format, super fat paragraphs, not the best written English, but timing, Google was just sort of taking off. Blogs were brand new, so everyone was linking back and forth to each other. Therefore, I built an audience. People would just share and I'd rank well. If we take that principle today, do you think, given the platforms that exist, if you're not thinking anything to do with titles, keywords, marketing brain, you just be creative and publish a video or share short form content, whatever it is, do you think the platforms are going to reward you enough that you'll, you know, build a following and succeed the way maybe we all did because of, you know, the platforms or the time of the internet in history? Just you could be less strategic and tactical and still get the rewards.
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like the day has passed for things like blogging. Like, I think if I were just look at that, I'd say, I think the day has passed for that. You have to be more strategic. But then there's opportunities like we were talking about, reels and stories and these short form content. I think people can start creating nothing, like whatever on that and potentially blow up quick or get on. It's kind of like the first mover advantage for something. I still think that always exists and is always a possibility.
Well, there was something with reels though. Like we uploaded our first reel on our Instagram profile, and before we were getting 20 to 50 views per video. I uploaded one reel. It now has 8,600 views, right? But I researched a lot about reels, and I figured out that having not transcription, but some text popping up on screen and animations. I think the AI knows that's happening. And the other big thing was to get the trending sounds. When we have music in the background, I uploaded one video without music in the background. It got like a few hundred views, which was still better than the others, right? But the one with the music in the background, 8,600. So there's still some tactics to creating the kind of reels that are going to get that traction and that viewership. So I think that knowing that strat, like understanding kind of like you follow the trend of like what's popular now. Like before, IGTV was a big thing. You upload IGTV, you're going to get exposure. When stories first came out, you upload stories, boom, you're getting lots of traction, right? Right now it's reels on Instagram and TikToks and shorts on YouTube, right? So if you know what to do strategically, right, I think you could build an audience that's doing that stuff, right? But the challenge is if you go from short form content and you want people to watch your long form content, well, they're only there for the short form stuff, and they're not the same audience watching the long form stuff, you might end up building a big audience of people who just don't care about the long form stuff, right? So it's a little bit tricky in that kind of a way, right? So, but I think that process of just learning to create and just kind of doing the whole thing, it just turns you into an entrepreneur. It turns you into that kind of, you're going to eventually, slowly, bit by bit, you're going to meet people, make new connections, learn something new, right? Some opportunity is going to come up. Opportunities will come your way. As you put yourself out there, then you attract opportunities, right? I heard somebody say, like, success is not something you create, it's something you attract, right? So just being that person who is willing to go out there and create and do all these things, right? It attracts success, it attracts opportunities, and then things happen, right? And I think that's an important thing to
Then there's a concept of like
recognize.
Optionality. I don't know if that's Nassim Taleb or whatever. I mean, I'm sure other people have written about it or whatever. But it's like the more options you have, the better. Like, so if you can create optionality, so like one of the ways you can engineer optionality. You know what I mean? And you can do it through content, through being creative. And that's the thing. It's like that's what I think is interesting. That's what they just said. Oh, I was just being creative. But it sounds like many of them haven't done the backward analysis to see what part of that was actually taking off for people, because that's there too. There's always something behind the creativity that's also functioning for them in their favor. And sometimes it's like the hidden optionality of what they're doing, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Well, they say that,
you know, we just started the show.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. We just started the show like, you know, maybe 3 months ago or whatever. And as soon as we started it, opportunities started coming. And it had nothing to do with the actual content. It was just putting it out there. It was a process of just putting it out there. Opportunities came. So, you know, we're not making any money from the show right now, but it is opening up doors. And just like what you were talking about, Tom.
I think it's a great place to end the episode then today, right? Was it?
All right.
Episode number 14.
Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, obviously links to everything is in the descriptions, whether you're listening to this on a podcast or on YouTube or whatever. We got links below if you guys want to figure out other things that we got going on. All right. Take care.